I am here with a special guest today, Robyn Smith. Hi, Robyn.
Hello.
Robyn is an award-winning speaker and a leading trauma and relationship coach for women. And she's a founder of Rock Your Relationship Movement. And I'm super happy to speak with her today, since communication is just so vital for all of our relationships. And I love, Robyn, that your work is inspired by your own thriving 22-year relationship with your husband. And Robyn, for those of you tuning in, is helping thousands of women and couples transform from frustrated to fulfilled by creating deeper, more loving, and conscious connections for greater satisfaction and happiness. So glad to have you here today, Robyn.
Thank you, Heidi. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here with you. I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too. And feel free, I'm going to try to be keeping an eye in the Facebook chat as well. But if we miss anything there, if I miss anything there, feel free to pop your questions in after, even after the live part of this interview. The recording will be there for a few days at least. And Robyn will be sure, and I'll keep an eye on it as well to circle back and answer your questions. Yeah. So communication, healthy communication, Robyn. I wonder if you can tell us, it seems like it's obvious, but I want
Yeah.
to hear why healthy communication is such an important thing in our relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love this question because just to say as a relationship coach, it's one of the top complaints that I hear from women. We're not communicating. He doesn't listen to me. I don't feel heard. So it is so important. Excuse me. We all, when we're in especially an intimate relationship, excuse me, I came with a frog. We seek connection, and part of connection is knowing that someone's with you, that they're listening, that they're giving you attention. And so being heard and understood are key. And so I think everyone's seeking that in their relationships. That's how, we communicate through our words, obviously as well through body language. But so it's so important as a way to know that you're being heard and understood. And even, what you're doing with me right now is you're nodding, and that's helping me to know that you're following me. So even these unspoken words can be super powerful to help people feel more connection. The other things that you can get when communication is online is you can feel like you're on the same team, like we're working together. And it may mean that you do have to work a little bit with your communication. Like, I didn't quite get you. Will you repeat that? Or, that you show the effort that you care and you want to understand. And that helps people feel closer and supported. And so these are some of the beautiful things that can come about when we have healthy, effective communication, as well as ultimately more ease in your communication. Because as you know, and I'm sure women in your group know, when your communication is not going well, it can be super upsetting in your nervous system. You feel agitated, you feel adrenaline rushing through your body, you're getting hot, anger, or whatever might be happening. And it's really hard to communicate, and can feel more like more work or more draining to your system when it's not going well. So when it is going well, you get more ease, more just flow between you. And so that's such a gift of healthy communication.
Yeah, more connection, more
More
connection.
connection. That's right, with yourself and
Yeah,
with the other person,
yeah.
ultimately. Yeah.
Yeah, I am thinking of a specific situation where when we're dysregulated, it's hard to feel present. And then
Absolutely. Mhm.
the kind of communication that might happen, uh, the other person may be able to read that you're not really paying attention, even though you're maybe trying to look like you are.
Mm.
So what would you say we can do if there's like a challenge with dysregulation going on while you're trying to have healthy communication.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of the pause. So give yourself a pause, let yourself take a moment to collect yourself, to get here. And sometimes that means doing some simple movement. I'm sure you teach these types of things. I do as well. Maybe a little hold or hug of your body, maybe a little shake it off, or whatever helps you kind of get more settled so you can get your brain back online.
Yeah.
Because when you're in sympathetic mode, you can't think clearly. You're not going to be as able to listen well and offer healthy communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really yeah. And I teach this in my longer programs, like the nervous system is so essential. I mean, I don't have to say that to you. I'm teaching to the choir, but it really is in our healthy relationships in order to have that and effective communication. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I love what you're adding to this, because even when we're in a good nervous system state, there are, I'm sure, skills to how we communicate, and there's
absolutely,
things we can, you
yeah.
know, yeah. So what might some of those be? Um, some pitfalls that might happen when we're trying to communicate well, or some skills.
Yeah, well, let's start with the pitfalls so we kind of
Okay.
get the lay of the land a little bit here. So, common pitfalls are that we get triggered by something, and like I just heard from a client, she was talking about an interaction with her husband, and she thought he said you should do such and such a thing, and so she got this like, don't tell me what to do, kind of like a pushback. And so, and she got agitated. And then he said, I actually said I was going to do the thing. And I wasn't. So the whole thing was just not hearing correctly. But she was immediately in that, a bit of a flight, not huge, but, and upset. So some of the pitfalls are just going into that defensive response. And it's hard to help that when you get a trigger and you're immediately like, I didn't say that. That's not what I meant. You did this, so it's easy to go there. And I just gave another example of another of the pitfalls is blaming. So anytime you're doing like, you said that, you shouldn't do this, you're always doing that. Those are kind of blame statements. When you're pointing the finger, you're trying to look for someone to be at fault. And that can incite defensiveness, actually, and it can incite an escalation and an argument. So blaming, defensiveness, and then criticism are the top three that I would pull out from many others as well. But criticism is like a name calling, labeling someone as a bad person or their behavior. Being demeaning to them. You're such an idiot, you're such a slob, why, so just making someone feel bad. And then how are they going to respond? Probably with a counterattack or more defensiveness. So none of those things are helpful if you want to be heard and understood, and if you want to make a deeper connection with yourself or with others or yourself. You want to avoid the blame, the criticism, and the defensiveness. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
those are
maybe
some common pitfalls. Yeah.
blame, defensiveness, and criticism. And sometimes
Mhm.
even probably noticing them in our thoughts. Maybe we're
Yeah.
not skilled enough to not say it out loud, not to tell
Yeah.
the person what we're thinking, but just to even notice, oh, yeah, I'm having this criticism of this person, and really I would love to
Yeah.
feel connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. It's easy to just keep silent, but be silently judging and criticizing. Yeah. That's
Uh,
right. Yeah. It's still one step better than saying it, but yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's look at some of the, you asked for some tips, some keys for
Yeah. Yeah.
how
Some,
to, yeah. Um, I have a few that I like to share, and I want to say that the first couple are more foundational. So these are like set the tone for the conversation so that you can use your good skills and get your needs met and get heard and understood in these things. So the first one is eye contact. And that's, you and I are doing our best with that on the screen, and where the
Right.
cameras are, not quite lined up and all this, but eye contact is really powerful, and I think makes a big difference when we're communicating, especially because so often people are like, yeah, I hear you. Yep, I gotcha. And they're looking at the phone, or they're doing the dishes, or they're driving the car, or whatever they're doing. And so it gets in the way of that feeling of connection, that feeling of you're getting me, you're hearing me. So when you get eye contact, at least most of the times, obviously someone can have eye contact and their eyes are glazing over and they're thinking about something else. But at least it's likely that you're going to feel more connected and be able to have an important conversation. I'm not saying every time you want to say anything to anyone, you have to have eye contact, because obviously, that's unrealistic. Sometimes we're yelling to someone across the room or whatever, but
Right.
when you want to have an important conversation. And the other thing with that is that not everyone can keep good eye contact, and they feel kind of threatened by eye contact. And it's like they're looking around and they're not. And what I want to say about that is that if eye contact's hard for you, it feels threatening, don't give yourself a hard time. Don't judge yourself for that, because that usually does come from an early life trauma. And so just to know that you can learn to shift that, you can learn to get more comfortable within your own system, so that looking at someone in the eye doesn't feel so scary. And also know that when you don't make eye contact, it's harder for others to connect with you. So you just want to do your best, and maybe you look at them occasionally and then you need to look away, and that's okay. And you can slowly learn how to feel more comfortable, especially with some help from someone like Heidi or me, to get you to a place where you're more at ease in your system. So eye contact feels good even.
Yeah.
So that's one.
Yeah.
One tip, eye contact. Another one is consent. And again, to set the stage for an important conversation, consent is key, because if you want someone to actually be available to listen to you, to understand you, you want to make sure they're available physically. They're in the room, they're not preoccupied, they're not multitasking, like we've already discussed. But you also want to make sure they're emotionally available. They're not coming in like with a horrible day they just had, and they're like, they're not overwhelmed, they're not angry, they're not exhausted. So emotionally available, physically or energetically available, we could say, with their own energy, like I said, they're not exhausted, they're not falling asleep on you. they're able to be with you in the conversation on all these levels, and mentally too. So their minds can be here as much as possible. So that means you might have to say, hey, I have something that's really important I want to talk about. When's a good time? Can we do it tonight? If not, okay, how about tomorrow? I need 30 minutes of your time. So when you advocate for yourself to have an environment, a scene that is set, they call it set and setting in a therapeutic model, so that your set and setting is conducive to being heard and understood. You're going to get a lot further in your conversation than if somebody is, any one of those examples I already shared. Yeah. I have coached many couples, and sometimes a woman, in this example and a couple of examples I've heard, will say, like, I needed to talk to him. I was alone all day, and he came in the door, and he just, like, he wasn't there. He couldn't talk to me. I was like, I just need your attention. And well, he was like, I just had a really rough day. I need some space, and so we need to learn that people have, different things they're bringing in, and we can't always get their attention right away when we need it. And obviously, if there's an emergency, it's different. But if it's not an emergency, we need to check in, like, hey, can you do this right now? Oh, you need some space? Okay, when can you do it? So that we're not like bombarding someone with our needs when they're really not capable of opening up to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that example. I'm sure
I've
lots of
heard it many
I can
times.
relate. I can relate, yes.
Yeah. So that's That's two, right? We had eye contact and consent. And the third one I call reflective listening. And this is like, saying a little bit back of what you heard. So reflecting back, okay, so I think what you're saying is such and such and such. So that again, you're showing that you're paying attention and you're actually caring enough to make sure you got what they're saying. It doesn't mean you have to repeat everything exactly that they said, but a little bit of a summary once in a while can really help the other person know that you're following, they're tracking, that you care. Versus like what happened with the other example I gave, where someone says something and you go, I can't believe you said that, because you didn't, maybe if she had said, okay, are you saying you want me to do that right now? Then she could have not had the reaction so big, instead of like, she thought she heard what she heard and then she had the reaction. Does that make sense? So
Absolutely. It makes so
yeah.
much sense. Yeah. Yeah, I have that example of coming home from work. I work from my home. I have my office at home. My husband goes out and has conversations all day long, and he comes home and it's like I've been on my own all day, rah! And he's like, oh my goodness, exactly. I think a lot of people are gonna be able to relate to that. And I love the consent, the explicit or implied consent of like, is this an okay time? There's something I want to talk to you about, something important to me.
Yeah.
Now's
It
not the
shows
best time.
respect, right? It's like it shows respect of their time and their energy, and for yourself too. Because
Yeah,
why force a conversation on someone who's not going to give you their best attention?
exactly.
That doesn't do
Exactly.
you any good either. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, those three are so great. And the eye contact one, is it okay if I circle back to that one a little bit? I love that you brought in that when there's early trauma, it can be difficult for some people to maintain eye contact. It can feel unsafe for them to actually be looking.
Exactly.
And it can be really helpful as if you're someone who has experienced that to be kind with yourself, if that's your experience. It can also be so helpful in not taking personally someone else's nervous system if you
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
they have a harder time giving eye contact, and to maybe have a conversation then and say,
Mhm.
I love to feel seen, and maybe even literally, and I'm sensing that that's hard for you, um, and then to find ways in
Mhm.
which there is a match, so that I, who loves contact, is coming to the interaction with like a benefit of doubt for the other person, and they're also hearing that I love feeling literally seen, right? And
Yeah.
culturally too, some cultures have less eye contact. So
Mhm.
there are these are so awesome, and they're like a start
That's
to
right.
yes, and I'm
There
sure
are so many more.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Um, let's see. I had a few things that I wanted to go over with you, and I'm gonna, as you're answering, I'm gonna go and check if anyone is popping things into our live feed. So feel free, if you're popping in right now and catching this, to post some questions. Maybe you have an example of something that is on your mind. Um, yeah. I know I want to be sure to get to this. I know that you have a free communication training coming up, Robyn. So we'll circle back while I go and check if there's any questions. But I just really want to be sure that my community and anyone watching this has a chance to hear about that and put that training in their calendar. So why don't you tell us
Yeah.
about that?
Okay. Yeah. It's called the Rock Your Relationship Communication Training, and it is for women. And this is 2024, we begin March 18th. So it's right around the corner. And what it is, I love doing this training. I've done it several times and I always tweak it and make it a little better. But I'm giving solid communication skills, sort of jumping off from what I've given today. So there'll be different skills in the training for how to avoid arguments, how to stay connected, how to deepen intimacy, how to avoid like a defensive response, like how to speak so you're less likely to get a defensive reaction. And there's more, and there's some practices for actually connecting to what your own needs are. So it's transformational. It's 4 days of about an hour a day, and yet I'm always amazed with how women. So what I do is I give you these practices, and I say go practice that before the next class. So women go practice, and they come back and report, or they ask a question, and then I respond to the questions, and then we're learning from each other and hearing people's stories about what's working for them, how it's working. People are trying it out with their kids, their mothers, their partners, of course, at work, and amazing things are happening. I've had women say, I got heard for the first time by my 13-year-old daughter. I couldn't believe it. And my husband gave me a hug. He really heard me, and he got what I was trying to say. And I felt so seen. So it can be life-changing, this sweet free training. So if you haven't, most of us weren't given communication skills, and that's why everyone's starving for like, how do I do this? How do I stay out of arguments? Why is this always happening? I keep finding myself in the same argument or the same pattern with somebody. So this is you getting some solid core communication skills that you can use everywhere in your life. And especially for those deeper relationships where you want more closeness, more connection, long-term ease and flow with somebody, this is going to help.
Oh, that sounds amazing, and like super helpful with information and things that you can practice, and then really experiential, and a chance to like go away and come back and ask you questions that are really relevant to your life right now, people's lives right now.
Exactly. Right now. Yeah. It's interactive, and there's prizes. So I reward you for your participation. So there's prizes every day, and there's a grand prize of about $2,000. So, why not? What do you have to lose?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So getting to communicate better, getting to feel more connected to the people that matter to you. And I mean, the communication skills are relevant everywhere we go, not just in our most, intimate relationships, but this is applicable, I'm sure, at work,
Absolutely.
at school.
Yep. It really is. Yeah. And because I have a trauma background, I help a lot of people with early life trauma. We explore that a little bit in the training. And then, of course, when people work with me deeper, we can go much further with that. But so often, like what happened in early life is affecting how we're showing up in our communication. It's affecting like, why am I always in this argument? Like, why do I get so triggered by that? Other people don't. So when we understand that piece more and how that can be the source of easily getting triggered, agitated in your nervous system, easily feeling like, I have to protect myself. I have to be defensive. People don't like me. There's a lot of reasons we can have that. Baggage isn't the right word anymore, but just that stuff that we carry with us that affects how we're perceiving what other people are saying, or often misperceiving, and having reactions to that. So we'll make connections to that in the training, and then beyond too, because that's really important to see that it goes deep sometimes, these patterns.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you bring that background to it, because there's so many of us that didn't have good co-regulating and good, models for listening and speaking as we were growing up. And that does not mean that you are, that need has to be the case for life. These things are changeable, and I'm sure you and I watch them change every day.
Yes. It's super exciting to watch that. Yeah.
So be sure, I'm going to pop the link, or Robyn's going to pop the link into the thread of this live stream so that you can check out the upcoming workshop, get yourself registered for this free 4-day training, which I just highly recommend that you do. And I wonder if I can bring another question as we just to
Okay. Yeah.
last few minutes. Do we have like 2 more minutes?
Yeah, we got yeah.
Yeah, a few minutes. What would you say to people who are in a relationship where one person, when they're stressed out, goes into that fight flight mode and sympathetic, and the other person goes pretty quickly into shutdown and like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like their eyes are in that middle distance place or far away, or they literally, have the blanket over them. And I'll speak for myself as someone who goes to sympathetic and then wants to help the person come out of shutdown. But I have this little sort of, it's not a hidden agenda, but I'm doing it from a place of anxiety as well, that I'm trying to bring them out, because for me, it's uncomfortable when the other person shuts down. So I'm not asking for a friend. And I just invite all of us, like these, when you give your examples, there's probably a room full of people that can just easily say, oh yeah. So Robyn, what would you say in a
Yeah.
situation like that?
Yeah. Well, first, I would say that is a very common pattern where one person, and we can look at our attachment styles, might have a more anxious attachment style and the other's more avoidant. And those two love to just get together and trigger each other. So it's like we're playing out those, the origins of that pattern. And it's hard, it's frustrating. It does trigger the needs for, for the anxious person, for the connection, like, are you there with me? Do you get me? Why are you going away? Don't go away. And then for the avoidant, like, you're too much, you're too in my face, I need space. So the more we can just see that for what it is, like, and I love you owning it and naming it for yourself. And the more we can name it, like, oh, that's my stuff, that's his stuff, then we can take some of the charge out of it, like the feeling like it's personal, like you're hurting me, you're doing this to me, because it's not that. It's just someone's doing their pattern, the other person's doing their pattern, and they would do it with anybody who triggered it, right? So I think that's a good start, and sort of like to have understanding and compassion for the pattern and for yourself in your pattern, which in your case, the need to connect, the need to, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'll just, from what I know and myself, the need to feel seen, to stay connected, whatever that is. And so, I mean, that's just so, it seems basic or simple just to say, okay, I understand, but I still need, but then, the soothing, like that you teach, is like, how can I soothe myself and just know, like, he's not trying to hurt me. It's not that he doesn't love me anymore. He's just needing some space, just like I shared with the walking in the door example. And the more you can allow yourself to like nurture yourself, because he can't give it to you right now, he's in this space needing moment, then the more you can be okay. So that would be to start. And then ideally, like as a couple with this pattern, you address it when it's not happening. So in those moments when you can communicate, when you do feel connected, to be able to like debrief what happened and to unpack that after the moment, like what happened for you that you needed to walk away. I'm curious about that. I want to understand that, so that you can do your part. And then, what did you need in that moment? There's so much you could learn from each other. But in the moment, it's pretty hard because you're full of your stress hormones, and it's harder to actually have that conversation in that moment. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And yeah, I'm so glad you're doing this work. And it just, I love the overlap between what you're teaching, the specifics of what you're teaching, to this nervous system that every one of us has. All of
Yeah,
us
we all have
mammals
it.
have this nervous
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite ways in which people change. And you mentioned it, like an ability to take things less, to not have to take things personally, and to
Yeah.
be able to have spaciousness around the difficult things, come back to them.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I'm taking away eye contact, consent, like, is it okay? Can we check in now? And then that kind of reflective listening, and
Mm.
like actively paying attention and cueing that I hear what you're saying and I hear what you just said. So many goodies. Thank you so much, Robyn, for being with us.
Uh,
And can
it's
you
been a
just
pleasure.
circle back to your training, just
Yeah.
little
Yep.
bullets of it?
4-day free 4-day communication training with me, all on Zoom. You don't have to be in Facebook. You don't have to be in person. There are, yeah, you can watch it in Facebook too in my group. So we'll get that information to you. Heidi will have the link for you. And it's totally free. It's a $300 value. I'm just giving it away this coming week. You'll see the dates, March 18th, we start this year. And so, yeah, you can really rock your relationship through some solid communication skills, interactive skills, and you'll get feedback on what you're doing from me.
And
So,
prizes.
and
Prizes.
prizes, yeah, daily prizes, big grand prize. So, yeah, I hope to meet some of you there.
So great. So
Yeah.
great. Okay. Well, thanks for watching, those of you in Facebook, and wherever you're watching. Thank you so much, Robyn, for coming and sharing
Mm.
with us these awesome tips and valuable information, and this invitation too. So thank you so much. Uh,
Thank you for having me, Heidi. It's been a treat to talk with you.